let Coach start off with the opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Welcome, everybody. Really exciting time of year. It seems like it came fast. We had a lot of work to put in from January until now, building a team, building camaraderie, building teammates, working on the kids physically. Really want to thank Zach and Andrew and the boys for the work they've done to get the team looking like it does now. We look like a completely different team than we did in January. There's a lot of new faces, guys getting to know each other, but physically the team looks a lot different than it did 4 or 5 months ago, and the culture of the team feels a lot better than it did 4 or 5 months ago. So we made a lot of strides. Looking forward to seeing how well we can compete with what we have. It's kind of cool. We're kind of starting at go. Almost a completely new team, not a lot of expectations, and I really like taking off from that place. I think our guys have a little bit of chip on their shoulder and are anxious to get to work so they can prove to people that they're better than what people are expecting, and that's going to be the challenge for us. It's not going to be easy in this league. There's a lot of parity in this league, a lot of good teams and good coaches, but looking forward to competing with this group of guys.
Coach, I know you got a long way to go, camp and whatnot, but what does success look like in year one for you at UCF, or second stint year one?
Yeah, success is progress. Sometimes it happens slower than you want, sometimes it happens faster than you want. Last time I was here, it happened a lot faster than I think even we expected. But we have a saying around here that is still up on the walls when I got back from the first time: rise and conquer. And to the kids, that means rise up every day, try to be the best you can be that day and conquer the challenges in front of you, and then go to bed and try to wake up and be even better than that the next day. So it's got to be daily progress for us. We've made up a lot of ground, but still have a ways to go, and we need to continue to rise and conquer every day.
Scott, you mentioned the culture aspect of this team with so many newcomers. What did you guys do in the offseason to help build that culture, to help keep that team chemistry going together? I know you did something called the program. What was that about, and what are some of the other ways you guys maybe work to build the culture that you want to see?
Yeah, we've done a lot of things. We've been very intentional with trying to build relationships in team. It's hard to make the team bigger than yourself when you don't have a good team. The program was a huge part of it. Eric Kapitulik, that runs the program, is a good friend of mine, and I think that kind of jump-started us to push it in that direction. But I mean, it's been everything from getting guys in small groups with people they don't know and having little competitions to in team meetings calling somebody up front and asking the team to tell me their name. When you have 70 new players, there's still guys in our meeting rooms that don't know who somebody else in the room is, and you know it's really hard to build a team when you have a collection of new guys. I hate to call it this, but a collection of mercenaries to some degree, because guys are getting paid now and some of them are here for those reasons. I think the teams that are going to be able to rise above that and make team the most important and bring guys together are going to be even more successful. I think that's even more important than it used to be. It's even harder than it used to be, but even more important now.
Coach, you mentioned the preparation up to this point. Kind of look back a bit. The team looks different physically and a lot of other things like that. But so what in your mind, as you start to really ramp up to get into actual football, what's the biggest change in these practices that are coming up versus what you were doing this past spring?
We spent a lot of time with the guys, as much as we could legally, through spring and summer with our team. So we've covered a lot of ground from an X's and O's standpoint, from technique standpoints, with things that we were able to do. We tried to get enough work in through winter, spring, and summer that we can just really focus on fine-tuning now. We're going to go back through installs on both sides of the ball and make sure guys are really familiar, but we'll turn our attention to game one pretty quick. And really it's just sharpening the spear now. A lot of tackling drills to make sure we do that well, a lot of blocking drills to make sure we do that well. And we got to get a feel for actually operating as if it's a game situation, not a practice situation. So we still have a lot more ground to cover, but I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already through the things we've been able to do in the spring and summer.
Is it safe to say that it's more of a mental aspect to these practices versus previously?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's both physical and mental. You know, we still got to round them off into game shape. We still got to get used to executing at the speed that we need to. But a lot of the knowledge that sometimes you have to wait until camp to get introduced to the guys is already there. So we'll continue that side of it and then make sure that physically and from an operational standpoint, we try to get as sharp as we can leading into the first game.
Coach, during spring you talked about wanting to see which players would emerge in leadership roles. What's your process for determining team captains? Is it something coaches select, or if players vote, or have you thought through that process?
I think when you have the right team, nobody even has to say who the leaders are because it's pretty obvious. We weren't really in that situation. Even some leaders that I think are going to emerge on this team had a hard time doing it in the winter because they were new. They didn't know anybody. And it's hard to step into a group of 100 guys where nobody knows you and have a voice. So it took some shared experience and get to know each other and relationships before that could really emerge. I think we're at a point where we kind of identified who those guys are going to be. Now it's up to the coaches to step back and empower those guys. But I think we've got some really strong leaders on both sides, and we need them to speak up and correct people when they need correcting and motivate when they need to motivate and really take charge of it. And we'll continue putting guys in roles like that to make sure that happens.
Coach, do you have to have urgency out of the gate tomorrow when camp opens to get ready for week 1, or can you be patient, methodical as you use these weeks to prepare?
I think there's always got to be a sense of urgency. This is a competitive sport. Everybody's working hard. So we need to have a sense of urgency. I would rather have a team that goes 100 miles an hour and 100% all the time and let us pull the reins back than a team that gets used to doing things less than full speed. So if we get max effort out of everybody, then we'll be smart as coaches of when we need to push them and when we need to pull back a little bit. And like I said, I think some of the extra work that we've gotten done over the course of the last 6 or 7 months will help us be smart with the players going into camp.
You had a handful of players that were in non-contact jerseys through the entire spring. John Walker, Malachi Lawrence, Braden Marshall. Are those guys all cleared for full participation starting tomorrow?
Yes. We have one tight end, Peening, that had a little bit of a hamstring issue. He's done a great job so far, so he'll probably miss a week or so. I think everybody else is up and ready to go. I'm actually anxious to see it because it wasn't just some players, it was some of our best players. You talk about Malachi and John Walker and Braden Marshall and a few other guys that are going to be key components of our team that I haven't even really seen them operate yet. So I was pleased with our team coming off spring, but adding guys like that and a few others is healthy and going into camp should be a big boost for us.
Coach, how important was it back here? How important was it just to get coaches on your staff that's been with you before at Nebraska and here during your first stint at UCF, just to establish that culture?
Yeah, I think we have a good mix. We have guys that are familiar with me, guys that are familiar with UCF, and enough guys that I didn't know before that bring new ideas and new energies and a different approach to it. But coaching staffs are the same as the team. Like, we needed to get to know each other, operate well together, and really form a bond as a coaching staff. I think we've done that pretty well. There's still more room to grow there, but I really like the mix of guys we have. Starting with Coach Becton, he's kind of Mr. UCF. When I got here the first time in 2016, I bet I got 300 calls and texts to make sure to keep Coach Becton. I'm sure glad I did because he's as good a guy as I've been around, as good an all-around coach as I've been around, and he deeply cares about this place. So starting with him, we got a group of guys that some are really familiar with this, some are learning it. But anytime you get everybody with the same idea, I think you're kind of stuck in the mud too. So I think we got a good mix of guys that are familiar and guys that haven't been, and everybody's got to put egos aside and choose the best ideas that the group collectively can come up with.
Coach, how are you feeling about the team's ability currently to compete in the Big 12 landscape?
That's a tough question to answer. All I really know about the Big 12 is watching tape. But this is probably the 5th or 6th time I've been on a new team in a new league, and it's hard to know until you're out on the field with them. Said this a lot, I feel really good about the talent level on our team, but we're largely unproven. We don't have a lot of returning production. So it's really going to be how fast these guys can operate at a level where they can compete in a game against good teams in the Big 12 and make plays. And we have guys with the ability to do that, but ability is different than being able to do it consistently. And we have some growing up to do and some maturing to do fast to make sure that the talent shines through and guys aren't just out there. They're out there able to make plays in a consistent manner.
Coach, you talked about progress. How much does your 2016 season sort of influence or inspire what you're looking to do with this year one of this stint in terms of that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've always said privately to my coaching staff is you always have to show progress, and if you're not progressing, then you can get stuck and even go backwards. So I think we need to move it in the right direction. Year one in 2016, we went from 0 wins to 6, and that was a big step. But we're not starting at 0 here. We're starting with a team that won 4 last year, and watching tape, definitely should have won more than that. So I don't think we have as big a gap to close as we did back then. But it's also tougher to close that gap against teams like we're playing in the Big 12. So you definitely want to show progress. Like I said, I don't know the opponents very well. I haven't coached in this league, played in this league a long time ago, but haven't coached in it. So it's going to be fun to get out there, and we really won't know how we compare against those teams until we get on the field with them.
Scott, it's been 3 years since you last coached in college. Do you feel like this season you have something to prove, not just maybe to people, but to yourself about it?
I think in my bad times, I feel like I have something to prove, yes. But this isn't about me. And one of my first messages to the team tonight will be, football's what we do, and I want to be elite at it and be the best that we can be at it and get better every day, but football's not life. And I think sometimes when you make football the most important thing in your life, then you ride the highs and lows of that. It can wreck you individually and personally. And I want the guys to keep the most important things, and I think that makes you even better at football. So we're going to love it and have fun doing it and be the absolute best we can be. But I think if I said I had a lot to prove personally, that would be about me, and it's not about me. It's about this university and this team.
Coach, I know you don't have a lot of returning players from last year's roster, but of those returners, how would you evaluate their acclimation to the new cultural standard that you're trying to build, and are they breaking into leadership roles like you would maybe want to see?
I think we're getting there. Like I said, the leaders are emerging. We need to empower them now. But I like where we are. In 2016, we took over a team that hadn't won, but I looked around and saw Javius Pittman and the Griffin brothers and Wyatt and Aaron Evans and Richie Grant and Kyle Gibson, and we had some players. They just needed to come together as a team and believe in something. I actually did a quote-unquote punishment run. A couple of our players missed a couple things, and we haven't had hardly any of those, but it gave me time to spend around a couple guys, one of them that'll be a leader of our team, and his comment during that was, I asked him what was different, and he said, everybody's together now. And I hope that holds true, because I think there's enough talent here to really surprise some people if we come together as a football team.
You talked about the gains made during spring. Where did you leave spring in terms of the quarterback position? Where were guys then, and what are you expecting to see here in the first week of practice?
Yeah, there's a saying in football, if you have multiple quarterbacks, then you don't have one. And I think sometimes that's true. I don't feel that way about this team. We've got 3 guys that did well enough in spring that I feel like if they were our starter, I'd feel really good about it. We'd probably design the offense a little different based on who that quarterback was. But all 3 of them are capable of making us a dangerous team. The sooner it clarifies, the better off we'll be, because we'll be able to get some reps with that guy, more reps with that guy, start to develop continuity. But we're also not going to anoint anyone. I had a meeting with the 3 the other day, and we're going to grade every single snap, every single play, and I told them mostly it's going to be based on, did you make the winning play on that play? Sometimes that might be a 50-yard completion, sometimes it might be taking a sack or throwing the ball away, sometimes it might just be handing the ball off. But I really am going to lean on the guy that puts us in the best position to win by making the right decision in every play, and we're going to give all 3 guys an opportunity, and hopefully that clears itself up pretty quick.
How quickly do you want to make a decision?
I would love to make a decision 2 weeks ago, but To be fair to those guys, we're not ready to, because they've all done good things, all three of them. Got to mention Davi too. He came in and is doing a really good job. So I feel good about the level of talent. But like I said, we're not going to anoint anyone. So it's up to those guys to determine it. And usually through the course of camp, it isn't just us that knows. They know, and the whole team knows. And if we get to a point, we get to game one and it's not clear, then the competition will probably continue. But I think we're better as a team if somebody steps up and takes it.
Coach, what are some benchmarks that you yourself are looking forward to seeing that are going to be signs that this team's going to be ready?
I think if we can get through practice and limit mistakes. Around college football, you're just watching it from afar. My opinion is when you have a collection of new people that haven't worked together for 3 years, mistakes can happen and teams beat themselves. If we can develop into a mature team that's disciplined and doesn't do the little things that beat ourselves, then we're going to be tough to beat. But that's hard to really nail down in on, because there's a million things that happen that you've talked about, but there's also a lot of things that happen through the course of a competition that you haven't had time to talk to the team about. So it really comes down to maturity and discipline. If we can get through practices not doing the little things that get you beat and continue to operate well, like I said, I think our talent will shine through at that point.
Coach, at Big 12 Media Day, some of your players described your offense as fast. What do you want the identity of this offense to be?
Well, UCF Fast is still up all over the building too. I really appreciate everybody for leaving some of those things out, because I didn't have to reinvent a lot of things. Fast can mean a lot of different things, and we talk about it in our team meetings. But first I want to execute at a fast pace and within plays. Less than full speed doesn't get it done. There's too many talented guys out there. So we want to be able to attack. I think we've got the type of athletes here that fit me and fit our offense well, and if we can max those guys out, then we'll look like a fast offense. But we're also going to play complementary football, and I don't exactly know what we have yet. If our defense is as good as I think it could be, we might be a little more careful on offense. If we need to go score a bunch of points to win, then we're going to do our best to do that. But I think through camp and the first couple contests, we'll really figure out the best formula to try to get wins at the end of the day.
Coach, you mentioned there's not a lot of returning production on offense, especially even with receiver. Are you comfortable with the idea of freshmen competing for starting spots on the team?
Absolutely. I tell the guys all the time, I don't care if guys are from America or somewhere else, or the north or the south, if they're red, white, black, blue, purple, if they're freshmen or seniors, or if they're getting paid a lot or a little, we're playing the best player. And if the best players are 18-year-old freshmen, so be it. We'll learn with them and compete with them. So I think we have a good feel for certain positions, who the lead dogs are going to be, but every position is a competition. Receiver is kind of one I point to that's a microcosm of the whole team. I think we have a lot of talent at receiver. It's very unproven. We don't have a lot of returning production, but I know we have guys that can do it. And how quickly those guys go from talented players to good players is going to say a lot about how quickly we win.
Compared to the spring, how do you evaluate the quarterbacks differently to make that decision, to get to that final answer? Who's going to go out there against Jacksonville State?
Yeah, I told the three quarterbacks we're kind of going to start with a blank slate now. You know, spring was great. I don't think anybody really emerged. But through spring, they were learning. The whole team was learning. They would make a mistake because we hadn't coached it well enough. Somebody around them would make a mistake that would make their job harder. Now that everybody's familiar with what we're going to do, now's the right time to really evaluate it. And I think it's the most fair time to really evaluate it. So we're kind of starting with a blank slate, and like I said, we're going to give everybody a chance, not anoint anybody. Somebody's going to have to step up and take it, and we're going to give them opportunities to compete.
Coach, when you were hired, you knew tomorrow was coming. Tomorrow, day one, the schedule, the minute by minute, everything. How long have you had that on paper?
Not as long as you'd think. You know, I think as a coach you have to plan and you have to be organized, but you also have to be light on your feet. And a lot of the decisions are based on how the team's feeling, how they're doing. There's going to be times when we have a couple guys with injuries and guys are run down and we're going to back off. With the schedule, there's going to be Other times we need to think we need to push through. In general, sorry about that. In general, you know, reinventing the wheel doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll be on a very similar camp structure to what we were in 2017, with a few adjustments that we think would make us better. But you know, I could probably recite the whole schedule to you tomorrow, but that's subject to change based on what the needs of the team are.
You had a couple interesting tight end additions during the summer, guys who played basketball in their previous college careers. Debo Coleman, the other guy. Sorry. What stands out about those guys? Why did you welcome onto your team with limited football experience?
Well, I'll start with Debo. You know, heard nothing but good things about him as a person and a competitor. He wanted to give it a shot. He's actually got a lot of talent. He's just starting from quite a ways behind. I want good people first and foremost and high character guys. And if you give me that guy with talent, then it's our job as coaches to refine them and develop them into what we want. Debo's got a lot of those traits. So do a lot of the other guys that we've brought in. We're in the molding process right now with a lot of guys, and like I've said about the team, it's just how quickly they figure it out and start operating at a winning level.
Scott, you talked about starting with a clean slate, but how do you replace a guy like RJ Harvey, and what do you envision maybe that running backs room being, maybe not necessarily relying on one guy, but maybe a collective of everyone?
Well, first of all, I've gotten to meet RJ a few times since I've been here. My son's name, you know, Ashley and I had our RJ in 2017, so he's got the same name as my son, so my son likes him. But what a good guy. I think he landed in a really good spot, in a place where he's going to get an opportunity to compete and do well. So I'm excited for him. You don't really replace guys like that. What I am excited for is you know, Miles Montgomery in particular has been in the shadow for quite a while, and he's a really good player. So it's exciting to see guys like that get their chance. I remember being at Oregon and Michael James was second in the Heisman, but we had a couple guys like Kenyon Barner behind him, and the next year you were able to see what Kenyon Barner could do. I'm hoping that same thing happens for Miles. Then we got Jaden Nixon and Stacey Gage and Swint behind them, and those guys really fit what I want to do offensively. So there's no replacing a guy like RJ, but I do feel really good about the guys that we have that are going to be toting the rock this year.
Coach, I feel like a big emphasis that you made is looking for guys who are hungry for a chance, and that's what this team is built on. I mean, just talk about the complications possibly after the season of retaining these guys after they get the opportunity, how you build that culture to keep them here in Miranda.
Yeah, I'm mad at you for even bringing up a transfer portal right now. I don't even want to think about that. That was not a fun period in my life, and I think that's the case for most coaches without speaking for them. You know, a lot's going to depend on where these rules land. Not to get into that rabbit hole, but I really appreciate Ryan Seeley and some people in government that are trying to get a handle on this thing and put some guardrails around it. I said this at a press conference, but when this whole thing started, it was supposed to be NIL and not pay for play, and we went zooming by that in about 6 months. And it was only 2 or 3 years ago when Ryan Day made news by saying that he needed $13 million a year to compete. From what I hear now, there's teams spending $40 and $50 million. So I don't know where it stops unless we get some guardrails around it, and I think college football will be a better place if it's equitable and everybody has the same amount to spend. And quite frankly, that'd be a lot more fun job for me, because then it comes down to how well do you evaluate, how well do you decide what portion of your salary cap goes to this position and that position, and you build a team. And that would make it for a fun sport. So I appreciate the people that are pushing it in that direction, and I don't know what it's going to look like come January. In fact, I don't even know if they've decided when the transfer portal is going to be next year. So we got to stay light on our feet, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about trying to make this team good, and if we have a lot of players that play well that other people want, that means we probably had a pretty good season.
Got time for a few more? During spring, you already had a lot of new players. Coming out of spring, the specialists changed as well. What are your expectations? What do you need to see from special teams during this camp?
You know, I got the right guy running that. Pete Alamar's been doing this a long time and been really good at what he's done at Stanford, at Rice, and at other places. Really like what he's installing. You know, to be good on special teams, you got to have good specialists and you got to have good athletes to cover and tackle and block. And I feel like we have that. We got to train them. Pete did a really good job kind of hitting reset and going out and getting some guys to be specialists. In fairness, I haven't seen enough of them yet. When we're doing team stuff, they kind of go do their own thing. So I'm excited to watch it a little closer. But I know I walk into their meetings once in a while, and I really like the group of guys. It's a fun group of guys to be around, and you can't ignore special teams. It's a huge part of the success of a team, and I hope we make some improvements there. And we're not just trying to get through downs there, but we're trying to attack on special teams.
Coach, fans have had the opportunity to see hear about some behind-the-scenes moments from the team, like the UCF Basscast and all that type of stuff. I mentioned
like UCF what?
UC Basscast, the podcast Miles and David are hosting. And one of the episodes I heard a story about how one member of the team introduced themselves by just doing a split right away in front of them to introduce themselves to the team. I mentioned that to ask, what type of new players have you seen make memorable introductions that really gave everyone an idea as to what the characters are on this team, really made them stick out to you?
Yeah, we have a lot of big personalities on the team, I'll tell you that. I haven't watched Miles and Jaden's podcast yet, but I've heard people love it, and they're the right two guys to do it. They're both high character guys with big personalities. You're going to have to ask me that question again in a few weeks, because during camp we're going to make anybody new to the program get up in front of the team and do something. That was Dalton Riggs, our deep snapper, that he didn't sing, he didn't tell a joke. Usually you get some of that. He just jumped up in the air and did the splits and made the whole team groan in pain and got a big ovation. So I don't think guys will forget who he is based on just that. But I want guys that are willing to be out there and have some pressure, and that's just a little example of how well you handle yourself under pressure, is to be able to get up in front of the whole group and tell everybody who you are and perform a little bit.
Two more over.
Yeah, sorry to drag you back closer to the rabbit hole, but how are you personally trying to adapt and learn as all these changes continue to happen within the rev share NIL space? And what sort of role maybe did that uncertainty have maybe over the summer as you were working with the high school recruiting class going forward?
Yeah, we're trying to be light on our feet and adapt as it changes, and make the best decisions that we can. I think it's really easy to say, hey, you ought to do it this way, and these ought to be the rules, and you ought to have guys slotted, or you ought to recruit this many high school guys or that many college guys. To be honest with you, in my short experience with this in 7 months, spending a lot of time at it, every decision's a one-off. Do you want this kid? Do you not? Do you need someone here? Do you not? So we got to kind of make individual decisions as best we can. But I want to say, UCF has grown so much, and it's so exciting for me to have been gone the time that I've been gone and then come back and see where it is now from a resources standpoint, among other things, compared to where it was. Terry and his team have done an unbelievable job getting us to a point that we're right in line with other people from a rev share standpoint. That makes us powerful in Orlando, Florida, because kids want to be here and there's a lot of talent around here. So we'll continue to adapt and figure out the best answer to each individual question. I can't tell you we're going to have a specific strategy because things change so much and the rules are changing so much, but I know that Terry and a lot of other people have done a really good job to put us in a position where we can be competitive.
Coach, on that note, I know you've been in the market for a football general manager. Is that a hire you're going to make soon?
Yeah, I want to say this. I think we'll get the answer to that soon. Everybody's using that role a little bit different. I think there's some places where the GM has complete control over who is on the team. That won't be the case here. I think we did a really good job with Jeff Love and I and his team working together this winter and spring to build a team. We have 69 new players. We had a lot in spring ball, and we felt like we had a really high hit rate on guys coming in and being the player we thought are better. I think that happened because we spent so much time on it and I was involved in it and collaborative with it. Certainly not the only person making decisions, but I just think we're a little shorthanded, and there's some things I had to do as a head coach that I don't think a head coach should have to do that we'll bring someone in to help me with. but it's certainly not going to be a guy that comes in and makes all the decisions for me either. We just need more people, and as we continue to gain resources, we have opportunities to add to the team, and we got to make sure it's the right guy.
That's not right. Coach, based upon the fun you have with trivia, I've often wondered, how do you do when you watch Jeopardy?
You know, it's funny you ask about Jeopardy because I kind of have a little bit of fear of watching Jeopardy. A little bit. My brother's a 3-time Jeopardy champion. I don't know if you knew that. He went on Jeopardy and won 3 times. And we did a lot of trivia when I was growing up, and I never won. So it kind of makes me feel a little small to watch it, knowing that I can answer a lot of the questions, but nothing like my brother Steve. So to be honest, I don't watch a lot of that. I just reading and memorizing things is more my deal, and I leave the trivia to my brother.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
How much do you win?
He won 3 times, lost in his 4th game on the final Jeopardy. I don't know, he won 40,000 or something. It was a long time ago.
When was that? What year was that?
2002 or 3.
Okay. So when he was up there talking about himself, did he mention his brother, or?
He did. They had to have a they talk about
every contestant does that.
Yeah, talked about my mom once, and I think me once, and I forget the other thing. But he was on 4 times.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was actually there. I got to watch him.
Oh, did you meet Alex Trebek?
I did. Yeah.
How'd you do with his questions? Were you like kind of?
He answered all these questions about French literature. That's what I mean. Like he like English monarchs, like stuff that I wouldn't know. But ironically, I'm a geography guy, and the final Jeopardy he missed was a geography question, and I knew it. And if I could answer that before, he probably would have won 5.
Phone a friend.
What was it?
I think it was I'm trying to remember, something to the effect of the first 2 countries alphabetically that contain parts of the EU.
All right, well, who doesn't know that?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.